It was a lazy Saturday afternoon, and the sun was beaming over our backyard, casting sparkling reflections on the pool's surface. The tranquil setting was one of the reasons Emily and I had chosen this house. It was a perfect haven for our family. I never imagined it would become the scene of my deepest heartbreak. My name is Jack, and I'm 42 years old. My wife, Emily, is 38. We've been married for 15 years and have two wonderful children, Olivia and Ben, who are away at summer camp for the next few weeks. Our marriage had always seemed solid to me, built on mutual respect and love. Emily was my world, and I believed I was hers. That day I decided to take a break from work and enjoy some quiet time by the pool. Emily had mentioned she was going out to run some errands and would be back in a couple of hours. I set up a lounge chair and grabbed a cold drink, ready to soak in the peace and quiet. As I settled into my chair, I noticed something strange. Emily's car was still in the driveway. Maybe she decided to walk, I thought. But then I heard faint voices coming from the side of the house. My curiosity piqued. I stood up and walked towards the sound. The closer I got to the backyard, the clearer the voices became. They were low and intimate. I recognized Emily's voice immediately, but the other voice was unfamiliar. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I crept closer, staying out of sight. Peeking around the corner, I saw Emily sitting by the pool with a young man. He looked to be in his mid-20s, lean and muscular, with a confident smile on his face. They were laughing and talking, their bodies angled towards each other in a way that spoke volumes about their familiarity. I pulled out my phone and started recording, needing to capture whatever was happening as evidence. The camera zoomed in on Emily's face, her eyes sparkling in a way I hadn't seen in years. She looked happy. It was a stark contrast to the distant and tired expressions she often wore around me. The young man, who I later learned was named Tyler, leaned in and kissed Emily. She didn't pull away. Instead, she kissed him back, wrapping her arms around his neck. My heart shattered at the sight, and I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and deep sorrow. I continued recording, unable to look away from the scene unfolding before me. As they pulled apart, Emily glanced around nervously. "We shouldn't be doing this here," she whispered, though her tone lacked any real conviction. "It's fine, babe," Tyler replied, his hand resting on her thigh. "He's at work, and the kids are at camp. We've got the place to ourselves." Emily sighed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "I just don't want to get caught." "Relax," he said with a smirk. "We've been careful so far, right?" At that moment, I decided I'd seen enough. My blood was boiling, and I could feel the rage building inside me. I stopped recording and stepped out from my hiding place, my presence immediately catching their attention. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of fury and heartbreak. Emily's face went pale, and she quickly stood up, pushing Tyler away. "Jack! What are you doing here? I live here!" I spat back. "What are you doing with him?" Tyler, clearly uncomfortable, mumbled something about leaving and started to gather his things. I stepped forward, blocking his path. "Oh no, you're not going anywhere. You're going to explain to me why you're in my backyard with my wife." Emily started to cry, her hands shaking as she reached out to me. "Jack, please, let me explain." "Explain?" I cut her off. "Explain how you can do this to me, to our family." Tyler, now visibly scared, tried to step around me again. "Look, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "Save it," I snapped, my eyes never leaving Emily's. "Get out of my sight." Tyler quickly left, leaving Emily and me alone. The weight of what had just happened hung heavy in the air. I turned to Emily, my voice breaking. "How long?" She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "A few months," she whispered. "A few months?" I echoed, feeling the full impact of her betrayal. "How could you do this to me?" "To our kids," Emily sobbed, trying to reach for me, but I stepped back. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Jack. I was lonely, and you were always so busy with work." "That's your excuse?" I shouted. "I was working to provide for us, for our family. And this is how you repay me?" She fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, Jack. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said coldly. "And now I don't know how we can ever move past this." The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I couldn't look at Emily without feeling a surge of betrayal. I knew our marriage was over, but I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. I contacted a lawyer and began the process of filing for divorce. I gathered all the evidence I had, including the video from that day, and made sure I was prepared for the inevitable battle. Emily tried to talk to me, to apologize, but I couldn't bear to hear her excuses. The betrayal was too raw, too fresh. One evening, a week after the incident, Emily and I had a heated argument in the living room. "Jack, please," she pleaded, her eyes red from crying. "We can work through this. Think about the kids," I retorted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You should have thought about them before you decide. I know I made a mistake," she sobbed. "But I love you. I shook my head, my anger barely contained. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have lied and betrayed our trust." Emily fell silent, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I turned away, unable to look at her. The woman I had loved and trusted for so many years was now a stranger to me. The next day, I met with my lawyer, Rebecca, to discuss the divorce proceedings. "Given the evidence you have, you should have a strong case," she said, looking over the documents and video I had provided. "Adultery can have significant implications in divorce settlements. I want full custody of the kids," I said firmly, "and I want her out of the house." Rebecca nodded. "We can fight for that. It won't be easy, but with this evidence, we have a good chance." Over the next few weeks, I meticulously gathered more evidence. I tracked Emily's phone records, her emails, and even her social media activity. I wanted to make sure there was no way she could deny what she had done. Each new piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. Emily, meanwhile, seemed to be trying to salvage what little was left. She moved in with a friend temporarily, giving me space. But every time she tried to talk to me, to apologize, it only deepened my resolve to end things once and for all. One evening, while going through Emily's emails, I found something that made my blood run cold. She had been planning to meet Tyler again, this time at a hotel. They had been careful, using coded language and private emails, but it was clear what their intentions were. I decided it was time to confront Tyler directly. I found his address through some of the information Emily had left behind and drove to his apartment. When he answered the door, his face turned pale. "Jack, look. I didn't mean for this to happen," he stammered. "Save it," I said, my voice icy. "You knew she was married. You knew she had a family. And you still decided to ruin it." "I'm sorry," he said, backing away slightly. No, you didn't think I cut him off. And now, you're going to face the consequences." I left Tyler's apartment, feeling a mix of satisfaction and rage. Confronting him didn't change what had happened, but it gave me a sense of control, a way to channel my anger. The following week, I served Emily with divorce papers. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and resignation. "I never wanted this, Jack," she whispered. "Well, it's too late for that," I replied, my voice cold. "You made your choice and now you have to live with it." The divorce proceedings were brutal. Every detail of Emily's affair was laid bare, and the evidence I had gathered ensured that I got full custody of Olivia and Ben. The court ruled in my favor, and Emily was left with very little. She had to sell her car and move into a small apartment, her once comfortable life shattered by her own actions. In the midst of all this chaos, I found solace in the support of my family and friends. They rallied around me, offering their help and comfort. My parents took the kids for a few weeks to give me some space, and my best friend Tom was a constant presence, helping me through the darkest days. One evening, as I was sorting through some old photos, I found a picture of Emily and me on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. I stared at the photo for a long time, feeling a mix of sadness and anger. How had we gone from that to this? I realized then that I needed to let go of the past if I was ever going to move forward. Holding on to my anger and bitterness would only hurt me and my children. I decided to focus on rebuilding my life, on creating a new future for myself and my kids. I started by throwing myself into my work. I took on new projects, working long hours to keep my mind occupied. It was a welcome distraction, and it helped me regain a sense of purpose. I also started going to the gym regularly, channeling my anger into something positive. Months passed, and the finalization of the divorce brought a sense of closure. The court granted me full custody of Olivia and Ben, and Emily was ordered to pay child support. The house was mine, a small victory amidst the wreckage of our marriage. Emily tried to reach out a few times, asking for forgiveness, hoping for some form of reconciliation. But I couldn't give her that. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I told her firmly that our interactions would now strictly be about the kids and nothing more. One day, while walking in the park with Olivia and Ben, I met someone new. Her name was Sarah, and she had a warm, kind demeanor that immediately put me at ease. We started talking, and I found myself opening up to her in a way I hadn't been able to with anyone else. Sarah and I began seeing each other more frequently. She was understanding and patient, giving me the space I needed to heal while also being a source of comfort and support. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. As our relationship grew, so did my bond with Olivia and Ben. We spent weekends exploring new places, going on little adventures that brought us closer together. They were adjusting to the new normal, and their resilience inspired me to keep moving forward. Emily, meanwhile, had to face the consequences of her actions. She lost her job after her affair became public knowledge, and her relationship with Tyler quickly fizzled out. She was living in a small apartment, struggling to make ends meet. It was a stark contrast to the life she had known, and while a part of me felt vindicated, another part felt a twinge of pity, but I couldn't let myself dwell on her. My focus was on my future, on the new life I was building with Sarah and my children. We moved in together after a year of dating, and the house that once felt empty was now filled with laughter and love again. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, I realized how far we had come. The pain and betrayal of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had found a new beginning, a chance to rebuild and create a life filled with joy and love. As I looked around at my family, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey had been long and painful, but it had led me to this moment. I was no longer the man who had been betrayed and broken. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever the future held. And as I watched Olivia and Ben laugh and play, with Sarah by my side, I knew that we were going to be okay. We had weathered the storm, and now a brighter, happier future awaited us. Months passed, and the finalization of the divorce brought a sense of closure. The court granted me full custody of Olivia and Ben, and Emily was ordered to pay child support. The house was mine, a small victory amidst the wreckage of our marriage. Emily tried to reach out a few times, asking for forgiveness, hoping for some form of reconciliation. But I couldn't give her that. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I told her firmly that our interactions would now strictly be about the kids and nothing more. One day, while walking in the park with Olivia and Ben, I met someone new. Her name was Sarah, and she had a warm, kind demeanor that immediately put me at ease. We started talking, and I found myself opening up to her in a way I hadn't been able to with anyone else. Sarah and I began seeing each other more frequently. She was understanding and patient, giving me the space I needed to heal while also being a source of comfort and support. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. As our relationship grew, so did my bond with Olivia and Ben. We spent weekends exploring new places, going on little adventures that brought us closer together. They were adjusting to the new normal, and their resilience inspired me to keep moving forward. Emily, meanwhile, had to face the consequences of her actions. She lost her job after her affair became public knowledge, and her relationship with Tyler quickly fizzled out. She was living in a small apartment, struggling to make ends meet. It was a stark contrast to the life she had known, and while a part of me felt vindicated, another part felt a twinge of pity. But I couldn't let myself dwell on her. My focus was on my future, on the new life I was building with Sarah and my children. We moved in together after a year of dating, and the house that once felt empty was now filled with laughter and love again. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, I realized how far we had come. The pain and betrayal of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had found a new beginning, a chance to rebuild and create a life filled with joy and love. As I looked around at my family, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey had been long and painful, but it had led me to this moment. I was no longer the man who had been betrayed and broken. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever the future held. And as I watched Olivia and Ben laugh and play, with Sarah by my side, I knew that we were going to be okay. We had weathered the storm, and now A brighter, happier future awaited us. As the months turned into a year, life continued to improve. Sarah and I grew closer, and our relationship deepened. She became a wonderful presence in Olivia and Ben's lives, providing them with a stability and warmth that they had sorely missed. We decided to take a trip together to celebrate the end of a difficult chapter and the beginning of a new one. We rented a cozy cabin by the lake, a perfect getaway where we could relax and enjoy each other's company. The kids were excited about the trip, their laughter and excitement contagious. The trip was everything we hoped it would be. We spent our days hiking, swimming in the lake, and sitting by the fire in the evenings, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. It was a time of healing and bonding, a chance to create new memories together. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jack, I've been thinking," she began, her voice soft. "I love being with you and the kids. I love the life we're building together." I reached for her hand, feeling a surge of affection and gratitude. "I love it too, Sarah. You've brought so much joy and stability into our lives." She smiled, her eyes shining in the firelight. "I want to take the next step, Jack. I want us to be a family, officially." Her words took me by surprise, but in the best possible way. I had been thinking the same thing, but hadn't been sure how to bring it up. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice filled with hope. "Absolutely," she replied, squeezing my hand. "I love you, Jack. And I love Olivia and Ben. I want to be there for all of you, through everything." Tears of happiness filled my eyes as I pulled her into a hug. "I love you too, Sarah. Let's do this. Let's build a future together." When we returned from our trip, Sarah and I started planning our future in earnest. We talked about getting married, about creating a home where we could all feel safe and loved. Olivia and Ben were thrilled about the idea, their excitement only adding to our own. Emily, meanwhile, continued to struggle. She tried to reach out to the kids, trying to mend her relationship with them. I encouraged them to see her, to maintain a relationship with their mother, but it was clear that they were still hurt by her betrayal. It would take time for them to heal, and I hoped that one day they could find it in their hearts to forgive her. The day of our wedding was perfect. We kept it small, just close family and friends, and held the ceremony in our backyard, the same place where my world had shattered. It felt like coming full circle, reclaiming a space that had once been filled with pain and transforming it into a place of love and new beginnings. As I stood there, watching Sarah walk down the aisle, I felt a sense of peace and happiness that I hadn't felt in a long time. She looked radiant, her smile lighting up the entire garden. Olivia and Ben stood by my side, their faces beaming with joy. When Sarah reached me, we joined hands and exchanged our vows, promising to love and support each other through everything. The kids were a part of the ceremony too, symbolizing the union of our new family. It was a beautiful, emotional moment, a testament to the strength and resilience of love. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a simple reception. There was laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts from our friends and family. It was a day filled with love and joy, a day that marked the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our backyard, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The journey had been long and painful, but it had led me to this moment. I had found love again, not just in Sarah, but in the life we were building together. Looking around at my family, I knew that we had come through the storm stronger than ever. We had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty, but we had emerged on the other side, ready to embrace whatever the future held. With Sarah by my side, and Olivia and Ben's laughter filling the air, I knew that our new beginning was just the start of a beautiful journey. We were ready to face the future, together, as a family. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy, knowing that we had created a life filled with love, joy, and endless possibilities.